I'm Stephen, USSR Robinson, and you're watching Sport Icons. Papa!
Okay, so this is a story that I saw a couple of days ago on Sky Sports, which is Deontay Wilder versus Jared Anderson, an all-American heavyweight clash. Bob Arum has put it out there that by the end of 2022, this year, Jared Anderson will be in a position to defeat Deontay Wilder. Bob Arum says that the only person who can currently defeat Deontay Wilder is Tyson Fury, well, of course, and Jared Anderson is the only one that could potentially defeat Deontay Wilder, but not right now, at the end of the year. Now, Jared Anderson, 11 wins, 11 knockouts, so looking real good so far. Yes, it's a resume of journeymen, let's be honest. Yes, some of them, they don't have journeyman records, but that's what they are. Okay, we all know the padded records. But Jared Anderson, in my opinion, is a super talent. He really is. I think that Jared Anderson, given the right time, given the right preparations, the right opponents, of course, could go on and do brilliant things in the world of boxing. He could well be the next American heavyweight world champion. Could be. But America, they are starting to produce some real top talent. Jared Anderson is, of course, one of them in the heavyweight division. But as far as at the end of this year, Wilder versus Jared Anderson, so why would Bob Arum say that? Well, it's all about profile. It's all about boosting the profile of Jared Anderson. So Bob Arum's not doing anything wrong. He's doing his job, which is a promoter. Would he actually put Jared Anderson in there with Wilder at the end of the year? No, I don't think he would. I really don't think he would, because that would just be, at this particular stage of his career, potential suicide, if we're being brutally honest. As much as I don't particularly rate Wilder, I never have, but Wilder has the experience to just plant one on Jared Anderson. Now, we know Jared Anderson, apparently he's the one who beat up Tyson Fury in sparring, as Tyson Fury was preparing for the third Wilder fight, which forced Tyson Fury to postpone the fight. Rumours, of course, we don't know any of this to be fact, but right now, this is just about Bob Arum boosting the profile of Jared Anderson. So, as I said before, there's nothing wrong with him doing that, but the reality of that happening, I don't think so. But if it did happen, I would heavily favour Deontay Wilder right now. I would. Would Deontay Wilder entertain a fight with Jared Anderson right now? I doubt it. Again, cross-promotion, the PBC, Top Rank. No, I don't think so. I don't think that Deontay Wilder, even if he wanted to, would be allowed to fight Jared Anderson. The PBC fighters, they do tend to follow the advice, should we say, of Al Heyman. Al Heyman don't want cross-promotional fights. Yes, Fury and Wilder was cross-promotion, but again, that was a pay-per-view level fight. Would Wilder versus Anderson be a pay-per-view level fight? Right now, no. Maybe at the end of the year, if Jared Anderson knocks off a couple of good names, maybe. But I think Deontay Wilder will probably be looking at, if he was to come back, of course, the likes of Andy Ruiz Jr. He's going to want to consistently stay on pay-per-view. He is. And there aren't that many out there that Wilder could go on pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong, the PBC, they're putting any old tosh on pay-per-view, like a Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios. Tank Davis versus a whole host of nobodies. Okay, Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin. So yes, of course, whatever Wilder fight, or whoever it is that Wilder fights, yes, the PBC will put it on pay-per-view. It's a way of covering their costs. But I can't see that fight happening. But it would be interesting, of course. It's an All-American. But if they want to do an All-American, as far as Wilder's concerned, Andy Ruiz Jr. Yes, I know that he identifies as Mexican, but he was born and raised in the United States of America. Maybe a Michael Hunter. That might be an interesting one, or something like that. As far as Jared Anderson, I mean, 11-0, there's fights out there that I'd like to see Jared Anderson in. Daniel Dubois. Would anybody be against that fight? No. What about Jared Anderson versus Fabio Wardley? What about Jared Anderson versus Stephen USSR Robinson? What about Jared Anderson versus David Adelaide? Johnny Fisher? Of course, I'm naming domestic fights here. As far as UK fighters, of course, Anderson's an American fighter. But there's quite a few fights out there. If Bob Arum wants to do in-house fight, Ajit Kabiel. These are the kind of fights that I think Bob Arum and Jared Anderson should really be looking at. Will they be? No. I don't think so. He's literally, and it is strange to say that Bob Arum is actually using Deontay Wilder's name for clout. Yes, Wilder, he has come off 2 back-to-back losses. For sure he has. But that's against Tyson Fury. As much as I think Tyson Fury is acting a complete wally lately, his in-ring ability can't really be questioned at the minute, can it? But I do think that Deontay Wilder versus Jared Anderson is not realistic. I really don't. Don't get me wrong, I'd tune in and of course I'd watch it, but I do think it's potential career suicide for Jared Anderson to get in there with him right now. Frank Sanchez could be and should be a viable opponent for Jared Anderson. These are the kind of fights that they should be looking at. But potentially, Jared Anderson could go on and do fantastic things in the sport of boxing. Against Wilder, I don't think we're ever going to see that, to be honest. To be honest, I'm not too sure Wilder's even going to fight again. I hope I'm wrong, of course. But anyway, drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.